Good afternoon. Last class we learned about towards a settled life. So today's class we are going to discuss about the customs and practices of those people. I mean the ancient people in the beginning. Customs and practices. See, archaeology does not tell us directly about their customs and practices. How the archaeological sources or even the archaeologist, how they can analyze about their customs and practices. So, archaeology does not tell us directly about these customs and practices which were practiced by earliest people. But scholars have studied the lives of the present day farmers who practice simple agriculture. So they have studied, some of the scholars have studied the lives of present day farmers who practice especially simple agriculture. So they have also studied the lives of herders also. So they were studied the present farmers about who practice simple agriculture, and they have also studied the lives of herders. See, many of these farmers and herders live in group. Those were called as the tribes. So actually, they were lived in a groups. So those groups are used to called as the tribes. ಟ್ರೈಬ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಬುಡಕಟ್ಟು ಜನಾಂಗ ಅಂತ ಈ ಒಂದು ಅರ್ಥದಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಈಗ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. ಸೊ many of the farmers and even the herders, so they were lived in groups. So those groups were called as tribes. Scholars find that they follow certain customs and practices that have existed earlier as. So here, the scholars find that they follow certain customs and practices that may have existed earlier as. So they may practice some of their own. So here, the term tribes usually, so actually two or three generations live together in a small settlements or villages. So tribes how they were known. So actually usually two to three generations. So they were lived together in small settlements or village. So most families are related to one another and groups of such families form a tribe. So they were most those the family members were related to one another and groups of such families form a tribe. See, the members of a tribe follow occupations, for example, hunting, gathering, farming, herding, and also fishing. So these were actually the main occupations of the earliest people. So they were follow the different occupations such as hunting, gathering, farming, herding, and even the fishing also. So usually women do most of the agricultural work. The most of the agricultural works were done by the women, including preparing the ground, sowing seeds also, and looking after the growing plants, and even though so harvesting grain also. So these were all actually looked after by women. So, children often look after plants. Children, so they were look after plants. So here, driving away animals and birds that might eat them, because some of the animals are birds, some of may eat them. So that's what actually they are driving away animals and birds and protected the plants. So whose duty know this? So probably the children, they were look after the plants. Then women also thresh, husk and grind grain. So these are all actually done by the women. The most of the, even the present day also, the most of the household work. So it's almost all done by, so are doing by the women. See, what about men? So men usually lead large herds of animal in search of pasture. ದನ ಕಾಯೋದು ಕುರಿ ಕಾಯೋದು ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಅದನ್ನು ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಡ್ಯೂರಿಂಗ್ ದ ಟೈಮ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಸೊ ಆಕ್ಚುಲಿ ದೇ ವರ್ usually lead large herds of animals in search of pasture. In search of pasture, ಹುಲ್ಲುಗಾವಲುಗಳನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕೊಂಡು ಅವುಗಳಿಗೆ ಆಹಾರವನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕೊಂಡು ಅದನ್ನ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಚಿಲ್ಡ್ರನ್ ಆಫನ್ ಲುಕ್ ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಫ್ರಾಕ್ಸ್, ದ ಕ್ಲೀನಿಂಗ್ ಆಫ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಮಿಲ್ಕಿಂಗ್. ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಮಿಲ್ಕಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು. ಸೊ ಇಸ್ ಡನ್ ಬೈ, ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ವರ್ಕ್ cleaning of animals and milking, so is done by both men and women, both men also and women also. And both women and men make pots, baskets, tools and huts. So this is also actually together they are doing, especially making pots, baskets and also tools and huts. So they also take part in a singing, dancing and decorating their huts also. So they were participated in a different activities such as singing, dancing and even though so they are decorating their huts also. And some men are regarded as leaders. Usually we knows that till today our families are actually, we are following the patriarchal system of the family. That means ಪಿತೃ ಪ್ರಧಾನ ಕುಟುಂಬ ವ್ಯವಸ್ಥೆಯನ್ನು ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಸೊ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ ಆಲ್ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಯಾರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ಸೊ ಆ ಮನೆಯ ಹಿರಿಯ ಸದಸ್ಯರು ಯಾರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಅವ್ರು ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಎಸ್ಪೆಷಲಿ ಮ್ಯಾನ್. ಆ ಕುಟುಂಬದ ಹಿರಿಯ ಪುರುಷ ಸದಸ್ಯ ಯಾರಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಯೂಸ್ವಲಿ ಯೂಸ್ ಟು ಬಿಕಮ್ ದ ಹೆಡ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ದ ಸಮ್ ಮ್ಯಾನ್ ಆರ್ ರಿಗಾರ್ಡೆಡ್ ಆಸ್ ಅ ಲೀಡರ್ಸ್. ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಆ ಒಂದು ಗುಂಪು ಏನಿದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಆ ಟ್ರೈಬ್ ಗುಂಪಿಗೆ ಲೀಡರ್ಸ್ ಆಗಿ ಅವರು ಹೊರ ಹೊಮ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಗೋಯಿಂಗ್ ಟು ಟೇಕನ್ ಕೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ದೋಸ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸ್. See, they may be old and experienced or young, brave warriors or priests. ಯಾರು ಅಂತ ಅವರು ಲೀಡರ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ, ದೇ ಮೇ ಬಿ ಓಲ್ಡ್ ಏಜ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪೀರಿಯನ್ಸ್, ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಅನುಭವ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥವರು, ಆರ್ ಯಂಗ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಅಂಡ್ ಬ್ರೇವ್ ವಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್, ಯಂಗ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಬ್ರೇವ್ ವಾರಿಯರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇವನ್ ದು priests. So here, like this, some of the men, they are regarded as leaders. So what about old women? Old women are respected for their wisdom and experience. See that. So old women, so they are respected for their wisdom and experience. Even till today we are following the same, dear students. Of course, some of the children, they may not ready to take care of their the old age, whether the what we call the elders, they may going to put in ashramas or old age centers and all. Other common is them class anyhow. Tribes have a rich and unique cultural traditions. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ನಾವು ಏನು ಟ್ರೈಬ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಅಂತ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಬೇರೆ ಅರ್ಥದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ ಒಂದು ಬುಡಕಟ್ಟು ಜನಾಂಗ, ಸೊ ಅವ್ರದೇ ಆದಂತಹ ರಿಚ್ ಯುನಿಕ್ ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಅನ್ನು ಹೊಂದಿರತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದನ್ನ ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ. ಅವ್ರದೇ ಆದಂತಹ ಯುನಿಕ್ ರಿಚ್ ಕಲ್ಚರಲ್ ಟ್ರೆಡಿಷನ್ಸ್, ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡಿಂಗ್ ದೇರ್ ಓನ್ ಲ್ಯಾಂಗ್ವೇಜ್. ಆಫ್ ಕೋರ್ಸ್ they are using their own language, music, stories and paintings. So they also have their own gods and goddesses also. So they are worshipping their own god and goddesses. See, what makes tribes different from many other societies you will be studying about is that land. Forest, grassland and water are regarded as the wealth of the entire tribe. ಇವೆಲ್ಲವೂ ಸಹ ಇವತ್ತು ಎಷ್ಟೋ ಜನ ಕಾಡಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಇವೇ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ದೊಡ್ಡ ಆಸ್ತಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ. ಸೊ what are those? Land, forest, grassland and water. So they are actually, these are so wealth of the entire tribe people, and everybody shares and uses these together. Now Angilam, those who are we, those who are not tribe peoples, so they almost all selfish, the maximum of the people. But the tribe peoples, they were not like that. So everybody shares and uses. So whatever these together, ಏನೇ ಸಿಕ್ಕಿದ್ರು ಸಹ ಅವರು ಹಂಚ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ, ಸೊಸೈಟಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತಾರೆ. ಸಂಪನ್ಮೂಲಗಳನ್ನೆಲ್ಲ ಯಾವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಅವರು ಅದನ್ನ ಹಾಗೆ ಮಾಡಂಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಅಂಡ್ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ನೋ ಶಾರ್ಪ್ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಬಿಟ್ವೀನ್ ದ ರಿಚ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದ ಪುವರ್. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಪುವರ್ ರಿಚ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಏನಿಲ್ಲ ಮಕ್ಕಳು. ಆಲ್ ಆರ್ ಈಕ್ವಲ್ ಇನ್ ಅ ಟ್ರೈಬ್ ಸೊಸೈಟಿ. ಜನರಲ್ ಲೀಡರ್ಸ್ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ, ಹೆಡ್ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳು. ಸೊ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ನೋ ಶಾರ್ಪ್ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸಸ್ ಅಂತಹ ಹೇಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುವಂತಹ ಇವಾಗ ಪುವರ್ ಅವರ್ ರಿಚ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂತಹ ಡಿಫರೆನ್ಸ್ ಸಹ ಏನು ನಮಗೆ ಕಾಣಿಸೋದು. I hope students, so you may got some ideas about the tribe people and their culture. Now let us discuss about a closer look living and dying in Mehrangarh. Living and dying in Mehrangarh and the case study ಅನ್ನ ನೋಡೋಣ. See, actually, this Mehrangarh site is located in a fertile plain. It is located in a fertile plain. So, ಫಲವತ್ತಾಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ವಿಶಾಲ ಬಯಲು ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು ಲೊಕೇಟ್ ಆಗಿದೆ. So, where it? So, near the Bolan Pass. Near the Bolan Pass. Near the Bolan Pass. See, actually this Bolan Pass, which is one of the most important routes into Iran. So Iran ಅನ್ನು ತಲುಪಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ಬೊಲಾನ್ ಮಾರ್ಗವಾಗಿ ಹೋಗಬೇಕಾಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. It is one of the most important route to reach into Iran. So Mehrangarh was probably one of the places where women and men learned to grow barley and wheat. So last class only I told that. So the Mehrangarh, it is one of the place where the men and women, so together they were grown the barley, especially barley, wheat, and even so they were reared sheep, goat, and cattle also. Then last class I told that Mehrangarh, so it is located in present day Pakistan. So at present ಎಲ್ಲಿದೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಇದು? ಸೊ ಮೆಹರಾಗರ್ ಇವತ್ತು ಭಾರತ ಡಿವೈಡ್ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ನಮ್ಮೆಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ಮಕ್ಕಳ. ಸೊ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಡೇ ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ, ಸೊ ಪಾಕಿಸ್ತಾನದಲ್ಲಿ ಇದು. ಸೊ ಇದು ಬೊಲಾನ್ ಕಣಿವೆ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ಮಾರ್ಗವಾಗಿ ಇರಾನ್ ಅನ್ನ ತಲುಪಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇದ್ದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಮುಖ್ಯವಾದಂತಹ ಮಾರ್ಗವೂ ಸಹ ಇದು. ಸೊ ಇಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಒನ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ಫರ್ಟೈಲ್ ಪ್ಲೈನ್, and here the most of the men and women, so they were grown, especially so they were learned to grow barley and wheat, and even they were rear sheep and goat first time in this area. So first time in Makna, so goat, they were reared goat, sheep, and they were learned to grow the wheat and barley. So first time in this area, so there were even so reared sheep and goats also. See, it is one of the earliest village that we know about. So Mehrangarh, it is considered as one of the earliest villages. So even the village another ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು uncountable villages are there, but during that time, so the Mehrangarh, it is one of the earliest village. ಈಗ ನಮಗೆ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟ್ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುವ ವಿಚಾರದ ಪ್ರಕಾರ, ಸೊ ಸ್ಕಾಲರ್ಸ್ ಗಳ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಇದು ಒಂದು ಪುರಾತನವಾದಂತಹ ಹಳ್ಳಿ. ಸೊ ವಿಲೇಜ್ ಅಂತ ನಾವು ಯಾವ್ದು ಕರಿತೀವಿ? ಸೊ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳ, ಸೊ ಅತಿ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಜನಸಂಖ್ಯೆ ವಾಸ ಆಗಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ, ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು ಸಮಾಜ, ಒಂದು 100 ಅಥವಾ ಒಂದು 10 ಫ್ಯಾಮಿಲಿಗಳು ಗುಂಪಾಗಿ ವಾಸ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದು ಸಮುದಾಯ ಇರತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಅಥವಾ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಎಥ್ನಿಕ್ ಗ್ರೂಪ್ಸ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಸೇರಿದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಇಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಆ ಒಂದು ನಿರ್ದಿಷ್ಟ ಪ್ರದೇಶದಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರೆ ಇವತ್ತಿನ ಅರ್ಥದಲ್ಲಿ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ವಿಲೇಜ್ ಅಥವಾ ಹಳ್ಳಿ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So village, it is one of the distinctive features of a village is that most people who live there are engaged in food production. So ಇವತ್ತು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಅದು ಟ್ರೆಂಡ್ ಬದಲಾಗಿದೆ. ಸೊ ಬಟ್ ಅವತ್ತು ವಿಲೇಜ್ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ villages are center of the food production. Why? Because the people, those who are settled in these villages, they were all the most of the village people, they were all engaged in food production only. They doesn't know any other. Of course, there are some of the artisans also, but even though, the most of the people who lived in these villages, they were completely engaged in food production. See, archaeologists who excavated the site found some of the evidence of many kinds of animal bones from the earliest levels. ಹಲವಾರು ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ವಿಭಿನ್ನ ಅಥವಾ ವಿವಿಧ ರೀತಿಯ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಣಿಗಳ ಒಂದು ಬೋನ್ಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಆರ್ಕಿಯಾಲಜಿಸ್ಟ್ಗಳಿಗೆ ಪತ್ತೆ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡೆಡ್ ಬೋನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ವೈಲ್ಡ್ ಅನಿಮಲ್ಸ್ included such as pig and deer also. Pig bone also and deer bone also found by the archaeologists in this site. So in later levels, they found more bones of sheep and goat. At the Nantara Makla. So the next stage, archaeologists they were found the more number of the bones of sheep and goat. And in still later levels, after some time, still later levels, the archaeologists they were found cattle's bones also common. ಅದರ ಅರ್ಥ ಮಕ್ಕಳ ಇನ್ ದ ಬಿಗಿನಿಂಗ್ ಅವರು ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡೀರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಪಿಗ್ ಅನ್ನು ಸಹ ನಾವು ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ, ಮತ್ತೆ ಶೀಪ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗೋಟ್ ಅನ್ನ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಆ ಏರಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಕಾಣ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದ್ರ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಕಾಲಕ್ರಮೇಣ ಅವರು ದನ ಕರುಗಳನ್ನ ಒಂದು ಸಾಕಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ ಕುರುಹುಗಳು ಸಿಗ್ತವೆ. ಸಿ ಕ್ಯಾಟಲ್ ಬೋನ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಕಾಮನ್ ಇನ್ ದಿಸ್ ಸೈಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಸಜೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ದಿಸ್ ವಾಸ್ ದ ಅನಿಮಲ್ ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಜನರಲಿ ಕೆಪ್ಟ್ ಬೈ ದ ಪೀಪಲ್. ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಸಿಕ್ಕಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಅನ್ಸುತ್ತೆ ಇವತ್ತಿಗೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಸಹ ನಾವು ದನ ಕರು ಹಾಡು ಕುರಿಗಳನ್ನ ಕಾಮನ್ ಆಗಿ ಜೊತೆಗೆ ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತಿದ್ವಿ. ಅವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ದ ಕ್ಯಾಟಲ್ಸ್ ವರ್ ಈವನ್ ದ ಸಜೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ದ ಅನಿಮಲ್ ದಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ಜನರಲಿ ಕೆಪ್ಟ್ ಬೈ ದ ಪೀಪಲ್. ಜನರಲ್ ಆಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲರ ಮನೆಯಲ್ಲೂ ದನ ಕರುಗಳನ್ನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ. ಅಂಡ್ ಅದರ್ ಫೈಂಡ್ಸ್ ಅಟ್ ಮೆಹರಾಗರ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡ್ ರಿಮೈನ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ರೆಕ್ಟಾಂಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಹೌಸಸ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ. ಸ್ಕ್ವೇರ್ ಆಫ್ ರೆಕ್ಟಾಂಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಹೌಸಸ್. ರೆಕ್ಟಾಂಗ್ಯುಲರ್ ಶೇಪ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥ ಒಂದಷ್ಟು ಮನೆಗಳ ಅವಶೇಷಗಳನ್ನು ಸಹ ಮೆಹರಾಗರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಆರ್ಕಿಯಾಲಜಿಸ್ಟ್ ಪತ್ತೆ ಹಚ್ಚಿದರು. ಈಚ್ ಹೌಸ್ ಹ್ಯಾಡ್ 4 or more ಕಂಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್. ಇವತ್ತೇನು ನಾವು ರೂಮ್ ಅಂತ ಕರಿತೀವಿ, ಕಿಚನ್, ಹಾಲು ಅಥವಾ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್. ದೇರ್ ವರ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಂಪಾರ್ಟ್ಮೆಂಟ್ಸ್. Each houses especially had 4 or more number of compartments. See, some of these houses, which may have been used for storage also. To store the food grains. When people die, their relatives and friends generally pay respect to them. ನೋಡಿ ಮಕ್ಕಳು, ಆ ಕಾಲಕ್ಕೆ ಆ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಚರ್ ಅವರಲ್ಲಿ ಇತ್ತು. ಇವತ್ತಿಗೂ ಸಹ ಅದು ಇದೆ. ಅವ್ರು ಹೋಗಿ ಗೌರವವನ್ನು ಸೂಚಿಸಿ ಬರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥದ್ದು ಅವರ ಸಂಬಂಧಿಕರು ಅಥವಾ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ತಿಳಿದಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು, ಗೊತ್ತಿರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು, ಪರಿಚಯ ಇರ್ತಕ್ಕಂಥವ್ರು. ಅಂತಹದ್ದೇ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಚರ್. If the people died in Mehragar, their relatives and friends generally pay respect to them. People look after them, perhaps in the belief that there is some form of life after death. ಅವ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಸತ್ತದಂತಹ ವ್ಯಕ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನ ಗೌರವಯುತವಾಗಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಗೌರವವನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿ ಗೌರವಯುತವಾಗಿ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಸಂಸ್ಕಾರವನ್ನ ಸಹ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು. ಯಾಕಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ದೋಸ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಆಲ್ಸೋ ಬಿಲೀವ್ ಲೈಕ್ ದಟ್, ಲೈಕ್ ಅಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ. ಆಫ್ಟರ್ ದ ಡೆತ್, there is something is there. Are you getting, dear students? They believe that there is something form of life after death. ಸತ್ತು ಹೋದ್ಮೇಲೆ, ಮರಣ ಹೊಂದಿದ ನಂತರ ಬೇರೆ ಒಂದು ಲೈಫ್ ಇದೆ ಅಂತೇಳಿ ಅವರು ಭಾವಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬರಿಯಲ್ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಸಚ್ ಅರೇಂಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್. ಅವರು ಬೆಂಕಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಸುಡ್ತಾ ಇರ್ತಾರೆ. The burial is one of the such arrangement, and several burial states have been found at Mehragar. ಅಂತಹ ಸಾಕಷ್ಟು ಸೈಟ್ಗಳು ಮೆಹರಾಗರ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ದೊರಕಿದೆ. In one instance, the dead person was buried with goats. One of the dead person buried with ಆತನನ್ನ goat ಜೊತೆ ಬೆಂಕಿ ಹಾಕಿ ಆತನ ಸಂಸ್ಕಾರವನ್ನು ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. Which were probably meant to serve as a food in the next world. ಯಾಕೆ ಆಗಿದ್ರೆ ಬಹುಶಃ ನೀವು ಈಜಿಪ್ಟ್ ಮಮ್ಮಿಗಳನ್ನ ನೆನಪು ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. ಎಲ್ಲವನ್ನ ಹಾಕಿ ಅವುಗಳನ್ನು ಮಮ್ಮಿ ಕವರ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಬಹುಶಃ ಯಾಕೆ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಸೊ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮುಂದಿಂದು ಅವರಿಗೆ ಆಹಾರದ ಅವಶ್ಯಕತೆ ಅಂತಹ ಒಂದು ನಂಬಿಕೆ ಈ ಒಂದು ಮೆಹರಾಗಲ್ ಪೀಪಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ಸಹ ಇತ್ತು. Now let us discuss about the another one side, that is about Dazali hand. Dazali hand is another one side which was studied by archaeologists. And that means archaeologists studied only these two sides. No, so there were many sides. So just we are concentrate a closer look on. So just now we came to know that some of the important, the significance of the Mehragar site, and let us discuss about Dazali. See, this is actually located on the hills of near Brahmaputra Valley. So it's located in hills nearest to the Brahmaputra Valley. Getting now? See, here the Dazoli heading, it was close connected to especially one of the important route, leading route into China and Man. ಚೈನಾ ಮತ್ತು ಮ್ಯಾನ್ಮಾರ್ಗೆ ಸಂಪರ್ಕನ ಹೊಂದಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಇದು ಬಹಳ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್ ಆದಂತಹ ಒಂದು ರೂಟ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಹಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೋನ್ ಟೂಲ್ಸ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ಲೂಡಿಂಗ್ ಮೋರ್ಟಾರ್ಸ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಪೆಸ್ಟೈಲ್ಸ್ ಆರ್ ಫೌಂಡ್. The archaeologists, so they were found in this area some of the stone tools, especially including mortars and pesticides. So these indicate that people were probably growing grain and preparing food from it. They are growing and even so they are preparing food from it. So other find includes zagit. This is a stone that many have been brought from China. That is the name of the stone, zagit. So actually this was brought by China. This giant stone, it was brought by China during the time, and we can understand that. So they are actually close connected with the China and also man. So also common or some of the fossils wood, ancient wood as hardened into stone and pottery. So these are some of the major things were found by the archaeologists in this Dazoli heading in this site. So this is actually